I'll start from the very beginning, because here we need to consider not just the final phase, but the whole picture. When about 5, approximately, I won't list all of them because, to be honest, I don't remember if all the brigades were mentioned in open sources, as far as I recall. Approximately 5 highly mobile brigades. Mostly these are airborne assault forces, like Yegeri. In highly mobile and strategically coordinated military units, crossed the border with the Russian Federation near the settlement of Sudza, and launched military raid operations approximately up to 40 kilometers deep in the region, with a total area of up to 1,600 square kilometers. That's where our units made their appearance, in the designated area, not counting the developed group. The enemy had absolutely nothing of strategic value in this desolate and barren place. There were a few poorly trained conscripts, some hastily assembled blocking detachments, apparently from the Akhmat unit, and various FSB police units scattered around. And they indeed entered successfully because the Russian Federation did not bother to keep the border under control with serious forces. Therefore, they entered absolutely without problems and, I repeat, advanced up to 40 kilometers in different directions. What exactly were the plans? What to reach, I don't know. No one knows, and no one will tell us. Maybe someday the documents will surface, let's say, specifically operational ones regarding the plan of this operation. But the troop complement is definitely insufficient to hold these 1,500 square kilometers with the line of contact that has formed around, let's say, the Sudzansky salient, let's call it that. There, since the Russians didn't have troops there, Putin, if you remember, initially tried to ignore it altogether, like provocations at the borders, and something like a sabotage and reconnaissance group consisting of 5. The brigades finally entered, but then, when he realized that we weren't going to leave just like that, he was forced to send a troop complement there and gradually increase it. And he increased his forces to approximately up to, the number varies from 50 to 70,000 troops, and these are not ordinary troops. These are highly trained and specialized elite troops, renowned for their expertise, including the 76th Airborne Division, 2 Marine brigades, and special units. I suspect there are GRU Special Forces units and so on. So indeed, a rather elite part of the Russian Federation's army was significantly forced to divert its attention and resources to this event of ours. Moreover, our troops are traditionally more effective in various raiding conditions. Therefore, the initial phase of the operation was extremely effective from a military standpoint. So, our highly mobile unit, instead of sitting in trenches somewhere near Pokrovsk, where the effectiveness of a special forces soldier and a 60-year-old reservist is more or less the same. That is, you sit like an infantryman, hold a sector, and hide from shelling. And in the highly dynamic and mobile phase, all the advantages of highly mobile and special units, such as their speed and flexibility, are revealed. Therefore, our forces performed quite well there. The first phase of the operation was extremely successful, and as the Russian General Staff strategically deployed more troops in the region, and logistical support and resources, the scale of operations, the number of our troops gradually reduced to, initially, we had slightly more than 1,500 square kilometers of land, but over time, this area was reduced significantly to about 500 to 600 square kilometers. This reduced foothold existed for a period of approximately 4 or 5 months, during which time significant changes occurred. It is important to note that our military troops strategically withdrew to their pre-prepared positions. All the units and divisions involved had extensive and valuable combat experience, so they chose convenient defensive lines on the spot. I am more than sure that it wasn't the General Staff who decided where to position everyone, but rather those on the ground decided where it was convenient for a number of objective reasons. There, we took up defense. And that's why this foothold held for quite a long time. And the Russians were forced to deploy significantly 5 to 7 times more troops there than we had, including elite forces. They had to bring in aviation and artillery. and drone operators, including their best drone operators. In the end, when quantity turned into quality, they took fire control, plus barely on the flanks, they took fire control of the main logistical supply routes for this entire grouping. That is, our grouping there was about 10,000 troops. This is quite a significant supply and evacuation traffic. And this traffic practically passed along one main road, plus forest paths, but forest paths are such a thing, depending on the weather. I mean, forest field paths. Therefore, due to the fact that drones, especially on fiber optics, have reached quite significant ranges, that is, they operate there up to 15 kilometers calmly, a fairly significant section of logistics was taken under quite strict control by the enemy. Under these conditions, maintaining the logistics of such a group became inefficient and increasingly complex. And in fact, actually, in order to exit this bridgehead, it was probably necessary to do so a month earlier, when this effective fire control over logistics had already, let's say, become irreversible. Our forces tried about a month or a month and a half ago to conduct a small offensive operation, or more precisely, offensive actions, with the aim of expanding the isthmus to create additional logistical routes to push back the UAV operators and artillery a bit further from the main road. Some things worked out, some did not, but overall, the logistical problems were evident. Everyone who had any contacts with our military in this area knew perfectly well that reaching Sudzha was indeed absolutely a lottery. I mean, getting to Sudzha was a gamble.
That is, the road was constantly under fire, drones were constantly there, it just turned into a shooting range.
Well, actually, we have quite a few places like that, but there is a large contingent of troops there. That is, it wasn't just a battalion stationed there, for example. I won't say specifically, but my close friends, where they rotate, they choose fog. And practically any rotation or evacuation is only possible under foggy conditions, when drones either can't see or don't fly, or heavy rain. So everyone sits and waits for rain. When the rain starts, they quickly cover approximately, say, 5 to 10 kilometers, drop off everything needed, and fly back before the rain stops. Holding such positions under these conditions is ineffective. And if it's not just a position, but a 10,000 strong group that is constantly under pressure, not only from fire, but also from infantry, then it's a big problem. That's why opinions are now clearly divided. Butusov, at least Yura, stated that there was no order for the hunt. It was an unorganized decision by tactical commanders. But since no one was literally encircled then, everyone was warned. It wasn't like a battalion just left from the right or left. The middle one didn't know anything, he was forgotten. That didn't happen there. In principle, the group withdrew relatively organized. Despite the fact that there were communication problems, Starlinks don't work there. A fairly large number of units. As usual, our general staff is engaged in fragmentation. So it's just not like... There were approximately 4 or 5 brigades, and surely there were indeed also a bunch of various GUAR members, several SSO operatives, and other fragmented remnants present. Well, I know who was the commander there, and when I was told, I was surprised. At least in the last section. Initially, it seemed like Krasilnikov was there. He is the commander of the Northern Operational Command. And then he was replaced by a paratrooper, a rather tough one,